So it says finding the zeros of a polynomial. So now with that same frame of mind, if I have x cubed minus x squared minus 6x, how many solutions might I have following that same thought process? 3, right? I should have 3 solutions at least. Doesn't guarantee it, but I should have at least 3. So to solve this algebraically, the first thing I need to do is I need to find the prime factorization. That means I need to factor this thing till I can't factor it any further. And so what can I factor out of all 3 terms? An x. So if I factor out an x, I get x squared minus 1x minus 6. Can I factor any more? Can I factor the quadratic maybe? Yes. How might I do that? Well, quadratics are going to be x plus something times x plus something. So what I need to do is figure out what 2 binomials I multiply that gives me x squared minus x minus 6. Well, x times x gives me x squared. I need to come up with 2 numbers that when I multiply them together I get negative 6, but when I add them up I get negative 1. What are those 2 numbers? Huh? 1 and 6 are 2 factors, but if I plug in a 6, like if I have 6 minus 1 I get 5, and if I have 1 minus 6 I get negative 5, so that won't work. What are some other factors? Negative 3 and 2, she says with confidence. So then I get 2x here and negative 3x. When I combine those like terms, what does that equal? Yeah, it's negative 6 here, but when I add these up, what do they equal? Minus 3x plus 2x equals negative x, right? So we need to make sure that these always equal the middle term, negative x. But you're right, it's negative 3 and positive 2. Well, now to solve this, I just have to set this equal to 0. Now, I have this times this times this. How can I guarantee that the product of these 3 factors is going to equal 0? Well, you should be thinking 0 times 0 times 0 equals 0. It's the only way I can guarantee that, right? Yes? Does 0 times 0 times 0 equal 0? Alright. So that means that x could be equal to 0, or x minus 3 could be equal to 0, or x plus 2 has to be equal to 0 in order to make these 3 terms, these 3 factors multiply and give a product of 0. So then I have one solution, x equals 0, and then if I add 3 to both sides on this one, I get x equals 3, and if I subtract 2 on both sides of this one, I get x equals negative 2. Now what is that? Well, these are what we call the zeros. Sometimes we call those the roots. Sometimes we call those the solution. But really, graphically speaking, they're just the x-intercept. Why? Because we're saying, isn't f of x the same as y? So we're looking for what is it that these values will make. They will make the y coordinate equal to 0. So now if I graph this, are you guys ready to be shocked and awed? What degree polynomial is this? Third degree polynomial. Where does it come in at usually? On the bottom. So usually this comes in at the bottom. Where does it go out? The top. Good. Now, according to this, I'm supposed to have an x-intercept at x equals 0, at x equals -2 and at x equals 3. What's that graph supposed to look like? It's supposed to come in from here, go up a little bit, come down, go out like that. Is that right? Now how can I verify that? Graph it. So I'm going to plug in my calculator. X cubed minus x squared minus 6x. Pretty close, huh? Any questions?